Hello, and welcome back. Northstar here with another Cell Singularity Let's Play. Doing a quick video here while I wait for a callback, hopefully from a government agency that was supposed to call like 20 something minutes to go back and probably won't call back until much later because they lie to you about the callback time. They're dishonest, they don't give a shit, they just want it so it can't be reported on. If a newspaper reporter isn't going to actually wait through the thing and see how long it takes, but maybe just call the number, see what the wait time is, and maybe decide whether it's worth reporting, a 3 hour wait time to speak with someone at Social Security, which is more what it's like. When they say 2 hours, it's three. When they say it's three, it's five. They're lying. I guess I just gave away Social Security. I'm waiting for a callback from. Specifically trying to find out from them because they said the IRS deals with it. The IRS says they deal with this. What I do with an employer who didn't pay my Social Security and they're supposed to. They had no legal exemption. Some of my employers did because their university was working for them, but other employers, not a student employee, not even in school at the time, weren't paying to my Social Security. And then Social Security is using the lack of work history that contributed to my Social Security. So not that I wasn't working, but that the employer wasn't paying into Social Security. And my employers weren't paying to Social Security for some of the work I did as a justification for denying me Social Security disability insurance, saying I'm just a little shy of the work credits. But it's not my fault if an employer does not tell me they're not paying to Social Security, should not be legally exempt from not paying, and so they should be legally required to do it. And of course, I'm going to assume they're following the law, and then they just don't do it. That's not my fault. And just because I didn't somehow catch that they were breaking the law, that's not my fault. So I'm dealing with them. What can I do? Because the law is useless if it's not actually enforced. If employers aren't forced to comply and there's no recourse if they just don't pay in, well, if I mentioned to the employer in time, I probably would have gotten fired just and because that's how these people are. Like, not that that might not have stopped me from doing it anyhow, but in a situation, given that that's how that often works, it's really not my fault they didn't do it. The government should be helping. It's not up to me to just talk to the employer if they're screwing me over and doing illegal things, uh, and to catch it in the first place, which I didn't catch at the time. Anyways, now I said something not dumb, but that could be misunderstood in my last video. I wanted to clarify. I said I suspect the right things are going, there might be concentration camps in the US by the end of Trump's second term, 2028. I guess I should clarify what concentration camps mean. Some people hear the word concentration camps and they think Nazi death camps. Uh, that is a form of concentration camp, yes, but the concentration camps also included labor camps and just stuff like the Warsaw. Well, the Warsaw Ghetto didn't. That was a ghetto, but there are camps that didn't have forced labor and weren't extermination camps that have existed in certain countries throughout history. And we actually already have them in the United States. That's the thing. ICE has been subjecting non citizens to concentration camp conditions already. That's just a fact. We might call it something else, but those are concentration camps. What I was referring to is that I fear we'll get to the point where that kind of treatment will be extended to people like the disabled or Muslims or LGBTQ minorities. And probably not all the letters, but transgender individuals possibly. That's where the country is headed. Someone is disabled. I'm particularly worried about that one. They might start locking up all disabled people and claim, "Oh, we're re-educating you because none of you are really sick. It's just laziness or some nonsense," as an excuse to erase the people with long COVID, separate them from the rest of the population, so people can't hear their stories about how their lives are ruined by this virus that Trump failed to appropriately manage in his first term for the time that he was in office, and then Biden screwed up as well. Um, Trump set off to a really bad start, though, and then Biden didn't make us any kind of a real recovery. He didn't even try that hard to fix the problems Trump created because both political parties are only in bed with the interests of the rich. But yeah, I'm not talking about gassing people. I'm talking about keeping people separate from the rest of the population. Concentration camps, not death camps, and not even necessarily forced labor camps, though there might be forced labor done to disabled um, and Muslims and some other groups they might decide to lock up. And it's not guaranteed by any means, but I fear that's how bad things will be within that time frame. A few years ago, I was saying we're probably 30 years from fascism in the U.S., 35. So this is a huge forward revision of my estimates, and it may be too shaped right now by current events. Maybe my original ones are closer, but we're getting there, regardless of whether it takes longer or less time. We're getting there. Things can only keep sliding right more and more, with the Democrats shifting right, the Republicans going more and more off the deep end to the right, and then ironically accusing Democrats of being socialists, even as Democrats are actually moving to the right. So that's a load of shit, honestly. That can only happen for so long before it reaches actual fascism. You can't have a trend like this continue forever, and in fact, accelerating, which implies we're not near the end of it, where, politics are going to stabilize before you eventually reach the logical endpoint, which is fascism. We're not there yet. I'm not saying anything I don't like is fascism. I'm saying that if you keep sliding this way to the right further and further, fascism is eventually where you end up. You can only move so far right before you're in fascism territory. Uh, and there's no signs of it slowing down the shift right in America. Meanwhile, people, I might be essentially killed off, not because someone shoots me or anything, but because I screwed out of disability that I really should have gone. Then student loan, income-based repayment type plans eliminated, so I have to pay into student loan payments even though I'm fully disabled. Probably screwed out of the full and complete disability recovery. Disability loan forgiveness. I bet they'll get rid of that before I'm even eligible in a year, because you have to be fully disabled for 5 years before you can get that. Or they'll have some excuse. They'll block it somehow. Then I'll be made to pay loans I can't pay. They'll empty my bank accounts. They'll take any money I get from state agencies with nothing in terms of financial assets, not even anything that comes into my bank account being garnished, stolen from me, essentially. At that point, that's essentially a death sentence. Nobody can survive with inability to even have a bank account. My bank would, of course, close my bank account eventually. Well, maybe not if the money's coming in and going out, but with no money, nobody can survive. Everybody needs at least, a little money to pay a phone bill, basic stuff like that. Otherwise, what happens when you have an emergency? It just... and being a burden on family that's barely surviving at that point, no, this is a death sentence, and the people in power know it, and they'd rather kill off people like me who got disabled with long COVID than deal with the moral responsibility of their fuck up, of their mishandling COVID. Tons of people getting infected with the virus. Some of those cases still have long COVID, and then no effort so far to research a cure. Rather than start researching cure, they'd rather just eliminate the problem. By eliminate, I mean condemn people with long COVID to such bad conditions. Some kill themselves, others flee the country. I'll probably flee the country if I can find a way. Otherwise, no matter how hard I try to survive, I will probably end up in a situation where I can't even buy new clothes. Eventually end up homeless and dead, because that is what the system is trying to do to me. Someone who is on the verge of entering an MD program, who had worked very hard to contribute to society, who would even try to serve in the military in the past, though I got screwed by medical clearance, physical health problems like a cough that's I've had since as a kid. I'm born with these health problems, not my fault. So I've done everything right, but just because this virus happened to me, which, mind you, this isn't like an STD. This is a virus that's spread by people coughing on you. Coronavirus. In my case, a roommate coming back, illegally crossing state lines back from business trip with the coronavirus and coughing on me, coughing in the same air as me. Rather, tried to keep him as far away from me as I could within the apartment, but I got sick anyways. If I probably if I'd managed to avoid infection a couple more days, he would have no longer been contagious. But despite all my efforts, I got sick a little before he was better. I got screwed, and others, millions of others, got screwed, and the system is trying to eliminate us, and that's a brutal system, and that is foreboding because if you don't know the poem, first they came for the communists, but I was not a communist, so I said nothing. Then they came for the socialists, but I was not a socialist, so I said nothing. Then they came for the trade unionists, but I was not a trade unionist, and it said nothing. What was it? Then they came for the Jews, but I was not a Jew, so I said nothing. Then they came for me. That famous poem, which the full version starts with first they came for the communists. Some versions have eliminated, by the way, that version, that line because Cold War and trying to make it like communists were never victims. But this isn't first they came to communists. The group that the Nazis actually came for, even before the communists, was the disabled. First, an accurate poem would say first they came for the disabled, then they came for the communists, then the socialists, then the trade unionists, then the Jews. Because that's the order that the Nazis rounded up and proceeded to, in many cases, kill off. Often, some groups were sent predominantly labor camps, like communists, but they died off in those camps. And some were sent to gas camps, like the Jews, but they were all killed off in shocking numbers. And the disabled were murdered through forced euthanasia programs that pretended people had consented to receive lethal injections that they did not agree to. So that's murder. They did that in the hospital settings usually. Kill off people who were disabled. Hospital, nursing home, or even home care settings. They used the medical professionals to do this. And the shocking thing, if you read the history of the Nazis, the shocking thing is how seemingly ordinary people who we would think of as just salt of the earth could turn to this kind of evil, could go along with it because, oh my gosh, if I stick up with it, they'll come after me. So if you think that couldn't happen here, if you think the US couldn't go down a very dark path, or even, I've never said it's going to end up that far. I mean, maybe that last thing I said could be almost interpreted to mean that I think things will level out somewhere around the level of Italy's fascism, like Mussolini-style fascism. But if you don't think things could end up very, very bad, if not quite as bad as Nazis, you're deluding yourself. Ordinary people will go along with truly horrific things just to keep their head down and avoid being targeted themselves. That is the sociology, the psychology of collaboration. And unfortunately, it's all too common. US Americans are not inherently more virtuous, and it's highly unlikely that people will stand up and have mass protests or an uprising or a revolution, a civil war, any of that. No, it's most likely that most people will just I'm not endorsing any of those. I protests I would endorse. Can't endorse anything else. I get in trouble with YouTube, but even if I wanted to, I can't. So I'm not endorsing other things, but I'm saying that these things won't happen. Americans will almost certainly just keep their heads down, and things get worse and darker and more evil, just because no one wants to be targeted themselves. And that's my prediction for the future. If things we're at a turning point, I'm not even sure that peaceful change is possible at this point. So people should sure as hell try. It may come down to something violent. I will not endorse that. I will not endorse that. If it happens, people will figure that out for themselves. That's become necessary. But I'm not going to endorse it. But I'm going to say, hope that it's not too late. That if you all get out and protest and march the streets, that will change things. Because that's obviously the best solution if it can work, if it's not too late for that. And I don't know if it's too late for that. I hope to God it isn't, because the bloodier stuff, well, it's horrendous. You don't want to see that happen. Revolutions are bloody and hurt a lot of people. So, really hoping things don't go that way in the country. Um, of course, if things don't change, a lot of people are going to die. So I really say you got to get out there and protest. Because, I mean, people already die due to lack of health care. People already die due to homelessness and getting screwed by the welfare system, but it's going to get so much worse. The number of people who die is going to be so much greater than it's been in the past. All right, well, I think that's the call I've been missing. So I wish you all the best. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. May you always find guiding star to lead you home. Adieu.